Good morning, good morning. In the spirit of be nimble, be quick, be different. It is not Thursday at 8:35. However, we are live. It's 8:15 on Friday, the 14th of March. We're almost halfway through March already. Boom, blows your mind, doesn't it? Spring sprung and went away. Now it's chilly again. But my goodness, the market has started. Or has it? It's going to be an interesting show today. Wherever you're getting your podcast, what a privilege it is that you've decided to spend 15, 20 minutes with me and the Grifter at House of Property. If you like what we say, please share. Please tell others about it. Put us on your Facebook. Put us on your Instagram. Put us on your LinkedIn. Tell other people about it. Wherever you get your podcast, it's welcome, and thank you for spending the time with us. If you're watching us live, maybe on Facebook, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe on YouTube, please comment. We like to get some interaction of what's going on. Now, this show, like most things, salt and pepper, Charles and Di, Willy and Wonka, you couldn't have it just on your own. There's always going to be two of us together. Katie the Grifter, Griffin is with me this morning. Grifter, good morning. How the devil are you, my darling?
I'm very good. A bit chilly, but juggling, because it's that time, isn't it, where we count down to the stamp duty end. We count down to the end of the first quarter, which lots of us are forgetting about. And isn't it stressy? Aren't we having to put our big girl knickers on and put them right up at the minute? It's a difficult time. And do you know what? Honest conversation, I'm not convinced how many of my sales that have been in solicitors' hands for probably in excess of 3 months are going to hit this deadline at the end of the month. Yeah. So difficult conversations to be had. Nailing jelly to the wall.
Great title of the show. You came up with this. This is mega. Nailing jelly to the wall, which kind of makes me feel like our industry, doesn't it? So, Grifter, are these tough conversations? I must admit, I think my big girl pants are getting a bit tight. I think I've eaten my way through the first quarter of 2025. These difficult conversations.
Yeah.
Some people are wanting price reductions last minute. Some people are wanting sellers to cover their stamp duty cost. It's very, very stressy with a week or so to go. It feels it's been stressy in the past. Maybe it's rose-tinted glasses looking in the past, but it kind of feels nasty stressy rather than sort of just stressy at the minute. And it felt stressy at Christmas, but this feels a whole new level compared to other areas. And I don't think it's necessarily volume. It's just pushing against deadlines and trying to get people back. But I liked one of the things that impressed me about 5-6 weeks ago. A number of solicitors locally to me stopped taking on business from people who said they wanted to complete by the end of March, which I thought was a very, very clever tactic.
I think that's interesting. I mean, what I'm hearing at the moment, which is signed off on pretty much every email I'm seeing from solicitors and conveyancers, is we are well aware of the deadlines and are doing our best to meet them.
Yes, that's interesting. So how do you feel about that? Because some people put, they're part-time people, they put on their footers, I work these hours in a week. Some people say, I've got these deadlines I'm working towards. How do you feel about that? I struggle between knowing if it's professional or unprofessional or informative. How do you feel about that?
So I'd say it's informative. Okay, we've all got a choice, haven't we, for the flexibility? Well, actually, do you know what? We don't have a choice, do we? But some people have a choice. If you run your own business, you do not have a choice as to whether you can be flexible or not. Well, I've never found that work-life balance is... Anyway, I think it's informative, so you know where you're at. It's also really, really helpful if that email is also copied into another colleague, so someone can pick up that work or the file when they're absent. There's nothing more frustrating than you needing to hear something, and this is a big thing in our clients' lives, whether that's a seller or a buyer, and it's really stressful. And I think the whole thing is just like dropping a bomb in the water sometimes. And I really don't think it needs to be like this. I don't know why we can't have more detailed communication with all the parties, almost like that deal room. And you go in there and you go, do you know what? This is what we're going to do. I know it's really difficult. We've all gone to deadlines, but putting it out of office, I'm not taking any more emails. I'm not dealing with you by telephone. calling the switchboard and saying, we're back to, it's like COVID again. Sorry, you cannot telephone this office because we will not return your call. That's terrible. Surely in this day and age, we've got something that we can do. We can signpost to be able to accommodate. And if not, we all need to stop doing this and draw a line under it and say, how can we make this better? Because at the moment, the stress is horrendous. And we know what happens when someone comes into the office, the seller comes into the office and they say, unless they stop asking these stupid questions, I'm going to pull out. And you spend 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes sat with them going, this is the process. So maybe we've got to educate more at the outset. And maybe we've got to say, you need to get your solicitor to pick up the phone, because they don't do that. They blame each other and they hide behind emails. You could say estate agents do that sometimes, but I've found the best chains are when the other agents copy you into their correspondence with the solicitor. It really helps. Transparency has got to be the key in the way forward, because moving house becomes so frenetic, frantic, horrendous that people don't want to do it very often. And it's like hell on earth. And it shouldn't be like that. You're often going to a lovely new house, or you're downsizing to a smaller cottage, or you're relocating to another country. It's super exciting. But it just has the sizzle taken off it because of the process. And I do think sometimes it doesn't need to be this way. Right, so tough question, Martyn.
That's interesting. Just before you go on to that, just interesting, because my photographer is currently moving house, and he was completely deflated on Monday when I met him at a property, because he was so excited about moving house and was pushing to try and get the bonus of getting in by the end of the deadline. Unfortunately, there's a leasehold property in the chain, and that's now just going to take a little bit longer, which wasn't necessarily a disappointment about the stamp duty. It's just that he was really excited about getting into his new house and getting on with his life and being in the garden for the spring and the summer. And it looks like he'll perhaps not get in until the summer. And it took the sizzle out of his sausage.
Yeah. So, and I think that's it. So I can't remember now what my bloody tough question was going to be. But,
that's good. Did I like it when it was the question? So here's something for you. Two things I want to talk to you about today. Talk about nailing jelly to the wall. I was reading a stat this week about my local market. So sort of 10 miles radius of where we are here. And I was the report was about how many new properties have come to the market and how many price reductions have had. So not that those new instructions have had price reductions, but those two figures, which don't have any connection, compared to each other. And 72% of property, if you took the new instructions, 72% of those, that number had been reduced this year. So three-quarters of the amount of there's three-quarters amount of many price reductions as there is new instructions, is the point. That's quite high. I would have said it was probably more like, normally I would expect 30, 40%. To get up to 70% seems very, very high. So it would indicate that there's a softening in prices, that there is a...
Or does it?
Or does it? I don't know. A challenge in terms of getting the offers from buyers. So I thought it was a fascinating stat. So the question that was posed, I'd like to pose to you, I don't want to know a figure, I'd just like to talk around it, is there seems to be lots of new houses coming to the market. Instructions are very easy. If you take that area that we were just talking about, in 2022, there was 925 houses for sale. There's now 1,400 houses for sale. Of the houses you have on the market at the moment, how many will you still have on the market on the 1st of June? There's your tough question of the week. I don't want figures because that's your own business. But that's what I think is interesting.
I think that's a really good question. And I think this is back again, isn't it, to good old-fashioned estate agency and rating or grading your stock, isn't it? To make sure, you know, who are the motivated sellers, which is the best board position and the best fee. And it's all about motivation, because I think buyers at the moment are a little bit cheeky. I've had several on a £250,000 house having no qualms, no embarrassment of coming in and saying, would they take 200? No.
No, they really won't.
So So I think there's been a shift in buyer sentiment, and that they are much more, I wouldn't say informed, because a lot of them aren't, but they're a bit more cheeky. They're a bit more willing to risk it. And do you know what? Because there's the choice, if they won't do it on that one, they might do it on this one.
Yes.
So that's an interesting thing. And I think it's as much educating your sellers as it is your buyers about the process, about the price, and about what you actually have to do and how your etiquette is. Because if you're selling your house, Martyn, at 250,000, and someone comes in and they say, I'm a cash buyer and I'm offering 200, that you haven't lost the money because you never had it in the first place. Yeah. And that's a whole nother training session. But you feel a bit awkward. You feel a bit like, well, that's way below what I would anticipate. You know, that's 20%. I'm not overvalued by 20%.
It creates a level of resentment, doesn't it, towards that individual?
That's right.
So the point is, if that offeree who's offering 200,000 was prepared to go to 220, let's just say, and they're thinking to themselves, well, if I can get them down from 250 and they say 235, we'll meet in the middle at 220. Let's just say that's the scenario. Yeah. Would it not be better to educate that buyer and say, right, don't play that game, go in at 215. And then if you're only prepared to go up to 220, say, well, I will go up another 5, but that is my absolute no regrets offer. And that's a phrase that I've been using a lot, which I've stolen from another sales trainer, is when an offer comes in, if this gets rejected, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, potential buyer, I'm going to be coming back to you and ask you for your no regrets offer. The one that you don't, anything above that, you don't mind walking away from this deal. And I do the same thing with the seller, really. Sometimes I say to them, what is your no regrets offer? You know, in terms of what's the low, if it goes any lower than that, are you really going to turn it away? And so it's, no regrets makes it emotive, I find. So it's been working quite well from that point.
So this is about, as I said, about as much educating the seller as the buyer. But back to your question about how many properties am I going to have on the market on the 1st of June? I'd probably say 50% will have sold or gone to sale agreed, and 50% will still be available. And it shouldn't be like that. But there's many conversations I'm having, you know, with clients, and you're seeing this as well, I know, and other agents are, is that it's not unusual to have listed a property in March last year and actually only just be looking to complete now.
Yes,
not
exactly.
unusual at all. So this, 56 days on the market, 73 until you get a sale agreed. That can be the case, but by the time everything else has gone through, it's crazy. So my tough question of the week, Martyn, for you is, why do some transactions go through beautifully, and there's long chains, and others, it's like wading through treacle? It's like, why does that happen? And because I find there's no method in the madness, and it might be the same solicitors, so we're putting all the same, comparables kind of in. But why is one transaction, oh my God, that's gone through really quickly, isn't that great? And the other one is like, oh my God, why is this one taking so long?
I believe it is down to the motivation of the parties, not just motivation, but also the priorities of the parties involved. So I've had a sale this week that was just about to collapse until I had a very strong word with my client, because it came to my attention that whilst lots of paperwork had been done, no money had been put on account with the solicitors. So therefore, nothing had really happened. The solicitor hadn't necessarily let me know. They'd been chasing the client, but nothing had really happened. So I picked the phone up and say to this chap, if we don't get that money on account today, your buyer's going to walk away. Within 10 minutes, that money was on account. But they're busy people with busy careers and busy family lives. And so for some people, when they're buying a house or selling a house, it is the greatest priority. And they'll get the paperwork back quickly. They'll get things happening quickly. But then for others, it's, well, I'm really busy. I've got that paperwork, that email through on Monday, but actually I'll deal with it on Sunday when I've got a bit more time. Well, there's a week. And if the person who receives that waits another week, and the person who receives that waits another week, it doesn't matter what the professionals in the chain are doing. And so it's trying to manage that by nailing all those bits of the wall, jelly to the wall, in terms of getting those people. That's what I'm experiencing at the moment.
But don't you think that we could do a better job here by having some more guidance, a checklist for people? I love my checklist, but just basically when you're sending out your memo of sale saying this is what will happen next, this is the next steps, and every delay you do or every delay adds on to the end of it. And the longer things take, the more chance you've got of the deal not moving or you not moving to your next property.
I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Because we don't do it, do we? We don't have
no, we don't.
Like, this is what you need to do next.
But bizarrely, when a house comes on the market, I have a next steps guide that goes out. And since we've had that, getting properties from instruction to launch has been at a speed that's on our terms, not on a speed of somebody else's, on the client's terms, where you're trying to chase things along all the time. So it's sort of, this will happen on this day, then this will happen, by then we need this, and if this doesn't come through by here, this won't happen.
So we do it with our onboarding then, don't we? We do it with our onboarding. Yes. So really we need to be looking at, instead of just going sale agreed and we've done all the due diligence, we've done that, and the memo goes out and then it's out of our, we should be saying this is what's going to happen next, and we should have a series of emails, all of that, to be able to keep people on track. And I know agents will go, I do this already, but I haven't seen it. I haven't heard anyone talking about this. Have you?
No, but if they do it, brilliant. Tell us about it. You know, what works, what doesn't work. You know, this is all about collaboration, because if we've got more agents having the difficult conversations about price with their clients and working on the differential between what they buy and what they sell at, rather than selling at the maximum, buying at the least amount, working with their clients, that will keep the whole machine going. In the same way that if we've got efficiency within chains later on down the line, because you don't have exclusivity over a chain, it will make the efficiency of the pipeline go through. So agents working together in collaboration will make things happen. So share your ideas. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found, because we've got so much stock on the market, you know, we've got more houses for sale now than we have had, I think, in 10 years, isn't it? We've got more stock on the market. So what are you doing to make it, because it can be a bit samey when you go out and pitch, can't it? It's just the same conversation. What are you doing to reinvigorate your pitch, Martyn? What is your secret sauce that you're doing at the minute? So
secret sauce. I always take a bottle of secret sauce for evaluation. I don't like saying the same things every time. Every one of those client meetings are different. So everyone has to be dealt with in a completely different way to be able to get keeping it fresh, isn't it? Every house is different. Every set of circumstances is different. It's just a case of having those different conversations rather than just say the same thing over and over again. And I think there's a lot of estate agents that do that sort of have a pitching presentation, and it must go through that pitching presentation stage, A, B, C, D, E, before things start to move forward. But actually, having a conversation is what makes you individual, isn't it? Listening ahead of talking.
So I had some training this week about recruitment and things like questions you can and you can't ask. And it was a really interesting session. And it was actually about, you know, you plan out your appraisals, don't you? But when you come to do recruitment, you kind of just sort of go, well, I know what I'm doing. And you kind of, I wouldn't say wing it a bit, but you don't necessarily have a list of questions because you go, I'm a seasoned interviewer. I've been doing this for years. And you don't always get what you need out of that particular person. So I've got some really great questions that we can kind of come back to. But one of the things on recruitment, and I always like to look outside of the industry, was something called Orca. Now, do you know what Orca is?
Isn't that a small whale?
No, O-R-C-E. It's not a baby whale.
Not O-R. Not a big one. No, I don't know what Orca is. What is Orca?
Okay, so Orca is what recruitment people use in their interview process. And I thought we could use this in the structure when we're pitching or client meeting. And it is basically observe. So O, observe, R, record, C is classify or clarify, and E is evaluate. And I was thinking, well, actually, do you know what? This is very similar to when we go on evaluation, sales or lettings. You go in, you observe, don't you? You record and you have a conversation with the client. You classify, you talk back to them, say, well, has it got mains drainage? Is it freehold? Are you the owner? Are you the landlord? And then you evaluate, don't you? Or you provide your valuation. And I just thought that if you could use Orca, which is your process or your kind of strategy for going in, because you when sometimes you go in to pitch for a business and you forget to say things, don't you? You go, oh, I wish I said that. And I think sometimes if there was a little bit more structure, I think we'd all be better at what we do. And I think that there's got to be a strategy around it. And quite often there isn't. We'll have, what does the Zoopla say? What does Rightmove Best Price Guide say? And so I don't think that winning in today's market is about luck. It's those agents that have got a strategy that you can educate your sellers. You've got the tactics and you can execute them effectively. And that will give your clients an edge when you've got a lot of competition. So I just thought Orca was quite good. It kind of pulled me back because I'm doing a lot more valuations at the moment. And I do find sometimes it is a little bit samey. Yeah, there'll be some different things, but I'm trying to stick, not a script, but just some guidance to make sure that I'm giving the best advice. So there's Orca for you. I quite liked it.
I quite like that point. So island to island to island to island. I like that. That's good.
Yeah. Just makes you kind of think about things, really. So
that's very good.
What conversations are you having with your buyers and sellers if they don't meet this deadline?
Oh, okay. That's a nice, difficult, challenging question of the week, isn't it? Well, you've got to be looking and say, we've got what is the outcome? What's the situation? I haven't, if I'm being honest, everything at the moment is on an optimistic level of
but
let's get it done. What else do we need to do? How are we able to do it? That I haven't had to tackle the fallout yet.
I think we need to be having that difficult conversation now. Let's just look at this. If someone is wanting 2 weeks between exchange and completion, their monies needs to be drawn down and with their solicitors on Monday. Yeah, that's not long.
No,
and I do think that we've talked a lot on this show about difficult conversations in the past, and I think it's something that needs to be coming out now to say, look, if you don't meet the deadline, everyone wants the same thing, but there might be something at land registry. There might be a last-minute septic tank drainage report that can't come back in time. But what are the solutions? Can we do an undertaking? Can we agree? There must be things that we can do to be able to try and hit that deadline. And I think that if you're inventive and you're forward thinking, you need to be looking at that now.
I love that. That's very good. Best advice so far this year. Best advice so far this year on this podcast. Grifter, lots of people are getting angry at the moment. Do you know what letter of the alphabet keeps a pirate calm?
No, I don't. I was trying to think, but no, I've got no idea.
P, because without the P, they're just irate.
Oh God, that's actually that's a good one, Martin. That's lifted your kind of level. I'm pleased with that one. It's very, very good.
Clever that one, right? Clever. You have to think about that one a bit.
So we've had a challenging show. We've had lots of difficult questions. We've talked about the no regrets offer, which I think is an Australian thing, Martin. We've talked about kind of the next steps guide. Martin and I will be putting something together. So let us know what you do and if you want some advice and assistance on that. We're all about trying to improve the process. It's very challenging. We can't do it alone. All I can say is be brave, be bold, be you, and head on out there into that tough old property market. Have a good week.